Welcome to our special coverage this evening of President Biden's visit to Houston to pay his respects to the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Hello, I'm Len Cannon.
And I'm Mia Granny. Good evening to you. You can see just right now landing at Ellington Airfield. That appears to be part of Air Force One with the President of the United States, Joe Biden, arriving. We were expecting him to arrive right at 6:45 from Austin, right on time, as we bring to you that live shot right now. A very busy day for the president. He's already been in Texas for several hours, delivering a speech at the LBJ Presidential Library to mark the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. Air Force One taking a very short flight from Austin to here in Houston.
Yeah, he was in Austin, as you mentioned, at the LBJ Library. He spoke for about a half hour there. We're keeping an eye on the plane. We know it has landed. We will watch the president get off the plane. We'll see who will be greeting him when he walks down the stairs there. We know that there are several people on the plane with him, several familiar names we'll get into a little bit later. Then, of course, the motorcade will be heading to Houston City Hall, where he will pay his respects to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who spent nearly 30 years representing Houston's 18th congressional district. By the way, that is longer than any other representative in that district before her. Jackson Lee lying in state at City Hall in the rotunda, only the second person ever afforded the honor of lying in state in Houston. This marks day one of 4 days of events we'll be having this week, honoring and remembering the Congresswoman's legacy.
And as we mentioned, Air Force One has touched down at Ellington. The president reportedly joined by several other big names in local and state politics on Air Force One, including Al Green, Sylvia Garcia, Lena Hidalgo, Lizzie Fletcher. And they're also joined by at least a dozen presidential staffers as well. Obviously, Air Force One, also a flying Oval Office, so to speak, with multi-stories on the plane as well. So a great contingency of folks joining the president on that flight, and from such an important event today in Austin, all the way here in Houston, of course, to pay respects to their sister in politics, a devoted servant to not just the people of Houston, but the United States as well. The now late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, as we watch Air Force One taxi here at Ellington Field in Houston.
All right, for now, we want to go live to Sherman Chow. She is downtown, where a line of mourners have passed through the City Hall rotunda throughout the day. Sherman?
Yeah, we are here actually on the back side of the old City Hall. This is Bagby Street right here. It divides the new City Hall annex, and then to your right there on the screen, the old City Hall, where all of the ceremonial events take place. And you can hear some of the sirens as security continues to be stepped up here. Secret Service has been hard at work. Of course, everyone anticipating the arrival of the president. Just a few more minutes left for the public viewing of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, her flag-draped coffin lying in the rotunda there. Folks have been able to enter from the front doors, and then if you can kind of see there, the steps there where folks are walking out, that is when they have finished paying their respects, signed that guest book, and this is the exit, if you will. That's as they're pulling out. It was a good crowd this morning, 100 to 200 people at about 9 this morning. We have some video of that in the morning ceremony. The mayor gave a few brief remarks. He asked various religious leaders also to say a couple of words. It was brief, after which he invited everyone to come inside. The Congresswoman's family, Ms. Jackson Lee's family, was also there in attendance. And the doors have been open throughout the day from 9 a.m. to 7, but for a brief, maybe 30-minute closure to allow the Secret Service to sweep the interior. And folks have been coming and going, sharing, grand memories that they have of the Congresswoman who, as you say, served some 30 years in that 18th congressional district. We're back out here live, and you can see folks walking back and forth. I had a chance to speak with the mayor a little bit this morning after that morning ceremony, before he actually headed out to Sugar Land for an HPD funeral that had occurred. Then he hopped on a plane to Austin for the Centerpoint hearing that you may be aware of, and now I understand he's actually on the tarmac at Ellington Field waiting to greet the president when the president arrives. So a big day for the mayor, who says he got up about 3:30 this morning to sort of arrange all of this. And on the plane, as you note, land a lot of dignitaries, about a dozen elected officials, some from other states, but also including Al Green locally, Lizzie Fletcher, County Judge Lina Hidalgo, and some others, Al Green as well. So there will be a well-represented number of the Texas contingent coming here, joining the president and arriving at City Hall here. We think the president will arrive in about 30 minutes or so. If he is touching down at Ellington Airfield, that's about how long it'll take. With the presidential motorcade, we estimate for them to get over here. And it has really been a day of history. A lot of folks sharing stories where they remember seeing the Congresswoman at an event, going down a hallway, calling her name. And as I think many people know, she was always ready to shake a hand, always a friendly smile for folks. She also sat on immigration committees, and we heard a lot from folks, if you will, that were movers and shakers. But let's send it back to you now. I think Air Force One may be touching down.
Yes, it has touched down. Sherman Chow live at City Hall. Thank you. As we take a look at Air Force One right now, we'll wait for them to roll the steps up to the door and wait for the president's arrival. And then, of course, the quick drive downtown to City Hall with a host of other folks who are on board, including several local Congress members.
Yes, that it typically is a 20-mile drive from Ellington to downtown Houston. Of course, that will be expedited even more quickly because of the presidential motorcade and roads cleared to make way for him. So what we're looking at right here, right now at Air Force One, awaiting the door to be opened there, then those red carpeted flanked steps that we often see the president make his move on. We'll likely first see Secret Service agents appear and walk off the plane first, and then the president after that. I just want to share with you also during this time while we await his departure off the plane that the president, the day after Congresswoman Lee passed, he released a statement from the Oval Office saying in part that Jackson Lee was a great American and that he had the honor of working with her during her nearly 30 years in Congress. He said no matter the issue, from delivering racial justice to building an economy for working people, she was unrelenting in her leadership. He added Sheila Jackson Lee is part of a long line of patriots who delivered the promise of America to all Americans.
Not a surprise that he is here, given what you just said, Mia. Of course, Joe Biden was a senator for 50 years. You've got Congresswoman Lee serving for nearly 30 years. So obviously they have crossed paths. They may have dined together. They have talked about legislative strategy over the years. So we know that he knows her quite well because they have been in the political trenches in Washington for a very long time. As the door is now open to Air Force One and we await the arrival of the president, and then of course he will then be going downtown. Sheila Jackson Lee, I heard you mention the president calling her unrelenting. That is so true. She was anywhere and everywhere. I can't tell you how many events that me and I would MC together. And I can't think of any of those events, Mia, where Sheila Jackson Lee was not there. She was always there. It was incredible.
And I think she was always there to bring recognition to that event, to those people who were providing a great community service to the citizens of Houston. And oftentimes, Lynn, she would recognize each one of those groups. She was very much known for when she attended an event, it wasn't just about her making an appearance. She often offered an official proclamation to the organization and the individuals expressing goodwill and doing good for the community. A staunch advocate for the community and providing all that citizens in Houston needed. And she was very vocal, very determined, and very dedicated to those constituents.
Yes, I heard a member of the Congressional Black Caucus say she did not suffer fools easily. She was outspoken, she was determined, and of course, you know, we have done 4 years of our Juneteenth special. Sheila Jackson Lee co-authored the bill that made Juneteenth a federal holiday. So she has that going for her, and of course, of several other accomplishments as a member of Congress.
We see a lot of movement and activity now that we have seen the steps released from the plane, that door and that hatch opened. You've seen the part of the presidential motorcade pull up, the presidential limos that are there that travel with the president as well with Air Force One. So at any moment we will see the president exit off the plane. And then also we'll likely see some familiar faces exit
we
from
will.
the plane, which is a sight we're not used to when we see Air Force One. But today, a very special day, a couple of different events going on here as well. So this contingency, this group of elected officials traveling from Austin to Houston, making the trip from the LBJ Library today, now headed and destined for City Hall and to pay their respects to Sheila Jackson Lee.
Of course, it has been a whirlwind past couple of weeks for President Biden. There was a lot of talk about people wanting him to step down as the presidential candidate for 2024. And then ultimately, he decided to do so. And then that set off a chain reaction of events. Of course, Vice President Kamala Harris, who will be here later in the week, is now considered to be the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. She has yet to choose a vice president, but President Biden has had a long career in the Senate, as well as a vice president and then president. His story is known well, coming from Scranton, Pennsylvania, from literally nothing to becoming, walking in the halls of power in the most powerful job in the world. So we're waiting for him to step off as we reflect on just the past week or so, everything the president has been through, the stunning reversal of what was expected to happen in the presidential election. He is stepped down. He said it was for the good of the country. He said it was for the next generation to take over.
It has been an extremely eventful past week that we have seen. And then today, the start of the week, keeping with that, being very busy. You heard us talking about Austin. It was the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, and it was celebrated and commemorated, appropriately so, at the LBJ Presidential Library. Those presidents both now sharing something in common with not pursuing and stepping down that re-election into office. So
LBJ was the last president to do so. It was March 1968 when he did it. And so how ironic that he was at the LBJ Library today. I was there for the 50th anniversary at the LBJ Library, and several former presidents were there that day. So that's always a big event. Not surprising that Biden was there today. And then, of course, not surprising to see him then coming immediately to Houston afterwards so that he can go to the Rotunda in City Hall and say his final farewell to his friend, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee,
who was such a champion of people's rights, from civil rights to anything that was a roadblock for Americans. She was an advocate to knock down those roadblocks and provide a way and a pathway and the funds. Let's talk about the funds that she was able to advocate and bring into this community. Most recently, the Gospel House Museum that's in historic Third Ward. She was able to award them with so much money. Oh, and look right now, President Biden making his exit from Air Force One and likely going to head down and step right into the chauffeur and the ride to downtown Houston. We see him being greeted there by a few military members as well to receive him, likely associated with Ellington.
I saw Mayor John Whitmire, I believe it was him, we saw the back of his head as he was the president was coming down the stairs. So it looks like he's greeting a couple military folks here, if I'm not mistaken. And then we'll see who else is there to greet him before he gets in the motorcade that brings him to downtown Houston. It'll be a quick ride with a motorcade, 20, 25 minutes. And then, of course, he'll be at City Hall.
Yes, it's going to be a very quick trip because that is part of Secret Service and their duties. And that appears to be Mayor Whitmire that President Biden is now shaking hands with and greeting Mayor Whitmire. Yes, in fact, that is him rushing to Ellington today. Also a very busy day for him, wanting to receive the president here in the city of Houston. And we had wondered who would receive President Biden this evening because of the group that we know is traveling with him. You can see Congressman Al Green there to the far left of your screen, shaking hands as well.
Getting off the plane there.
He's just one of those elected officials and dignitaries that we knew would be traveling with the president.
Gentleman in the sunglasses is Jim Clyburn, major member of Congress for a long time, one of the top Democratic leaders. He's on the flight, was on the flight with the president. I'm assuming that all the folks on the plane will also be going to City Hall as well. So it'll be a contingency. It'll be a group of folks.
And I also recognize the city controller, Chris Hollins, also shook hands there with
just
President
to the right
Biden.
there.
Yes, to the right-hand side of your screen as well. So our Houston elected officials there to receive President Biden and greet him and likely escort him to City Hall as well, to the rotunda, and to remember Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Quite a contingency. It has been a busy cycle of news politically for Houston. You have President Biden here today. You had Vice President and presidential nominee Kamala Harris here last week. She will be returning on Wednesday. She'll have a fundraiser Wednesday evening.
Oh, President Biden hugging
giving Whitmire
Mayor
a little,
Whitmire's neck
showing him
there.
A little love.
little added love.
And we should point out that Whitmire served in the Texas Senate as long as Biden served in the U.S. Senate, 50 years. And now he's the mayor.
Yes, you know, I call this is a certain class or generation of elected officials
Yes, it is.
that have spent decades of service. Lena Hidalgo also there in the all white, it appears to be, shaking President Biden's hand and visiting with her as well.
Quite a turnout, not a surprise, to honor the late Congresswoman who was, for lack of a better word, ubiquitous in Houston. She was, I once joked at an event that Mia and I did, I said to the Congresswoman, I believe there's two Sheila Jackson Lees, because one day she's on a mission somewhere overseas, and the next day she's walking the streets of the Fifth Ward, dealing with her constituents. She laughed.
Boy, did she laugh.
But it was true.
It's so true, but that's what she was known for. She was at everything. And I know you interviewed Mayor Turner, and I know that, you know, he talked about her relentless dedication and just how much she worked.
I've talked to Mayor Turner a couple of times here recently. And I asked him, I said, you know, Sheila Jackson Lee, even when she was ill, she'd already announced that she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She was out at an event, and the mayor is telling her, former Mayor Turner is saying, Congresswoman, you should go home. You should not be here. He said she insisted on being there. She insisted on still showing up, even though she couldn't be as active, couldn't talk as much. I said, why is that? He said, what she does, it is literally in her blood. It is part of her DNA. It's what made her so active and so involved in politics for so long.
We've recognized quite a few people here. Sylvia Garcia also joining this contingency there on the ground at Ellington Field. I believe I also saw the Reverend Al Sharpton as well. A lot of movement there, so at times you see someone and then someone steps in front of them, but quite the receiving line for President Biden at Ellington Field this evening as we take a wider shot for you to see.
And we also know that security extra tight for the president's arrival. That is usually the case, but given what happened to former President Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania at a rally, it sort of reinvigorates the security protocol whenever top political officials are traveling, giving speeches, etc. So I'm sure that this is a very tight security detail for the president to be here.
So we have all of these people receiving the president at Ellington Field. He will travel to City Hall in downtown Houston, the Rotunda, which is where Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is lying in state. And we watched the public come all day long since early this morning up until the time that they closed down the lines there to make your way through City Hall to pay your last respects, and of course closing it down so they could do the security sweep to prepare for President Biden's visit. It looks like he's going to get in the car now and start that journey to City Hall.
Yes, you're right. I did see the Reverend Al Sharpton. He was with the president at the LBJ Library in Austin as well. So the Reverend Sharpton is here. I saw another young woman. I don't know who she was. She walked up and took a quick selfie with the president. If you can get close enough and you know him or ask, perhaps that is possible. So people getting selfies with the president. Welcome to the digital age. The president there sitting in the back of the motorcade for a quick trip to downtown Houston, where he and the folks perhaps part of this contingency will then walk into the City Hall rotunda, place that you and I are very familiar with, to walk past the casket of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yes, the president now inside the presidential limousine, also known as the Beast.
The Beast.
And will be escorted there, not just by Secret Service, but just as we saw last week with Vice President Harris, a massive motorcade of local law enforcement, so likely to be escorted by HPD as well, all the way into downtown Houston. And if you have a loved one who you know is headed home from work, right, out of downtown Houston,
look out.
It might take them a while because streets will be closed down for the presidential motorcade. There will be no regular traffic on those streets while the presidential motorcade and the presidential limousine, the Beast, are on the road.
They'll be heading downtown via the Gulf Freeway. Should not take long. And as we said, the president sitting just on the other side of the woman who's got her hand up, and she's on the phone, probably a staffer, and the president sitting just on the other side of her as we await for this motorcade to get going and go downtown. And of course, Sherman Chow is at City Hall. She will be there. We have a couple of cameras there to catch the arrival of the president in downtown Houston. We don't know exactly what street he's going to come in on and what entrance, but we do have cameras positioned to get that when that happens.
And it looks like they are pulling off right now from Ellington and headed to downtown Houston. You do wonder, he will likely spend some time there reflecting and remembering his fellow sister in service to the country, Sheila Jackson Lee. You do wonder if the family will be there to see him as well, but we will rejoin you at that point with our coverage once he does arrive at City Hall and he is inside the rotunda paying his respects as well.
I could not imagine that Sheila Jackson Lee's husband, Elwyn Lee, is not there along with his two children. It would be surprising if they're not, but we'll wait and see. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back here live on KHOU.com and KHOU11 Plus with more coverage, this time with the president in downtown Houston.